Hello, and welcome to Women We Watch in Tourism podcast series. WWW is a platform where we provide a space for women to leverage collective wisdom, experiences, and inspiration from women powerhouses in our industry to become innovative game changers. We will be engaging in insightful conversations with women who have changed the face of businesses in our industry and trailblazers who have steered innovative and creative ideas. This is a must-listen podcast for women leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs to become visible, break glass ceilings, and to grow their impact. We believe that sharing these insights will be a catalyst for women in our industry to unleash their potentials and to seize the crisis as a turning point. So join our conversations by subscribing to Women We Watch in Tourism podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women We Watch podcast series episode 2, a podcast for women professionals and leaders who aspire to become more visible, break glass ceilings, and to grow their impact. I am your host, Nisha, with my co-host, Catheryn Khoo. On today's episode, we have a very special guest who will speak on love, desire, joy, creativity, and freedom. In the academic space where effectiveness and performance are prized more than joy, purpose, and creativity, many academics shut themselves out from what matters deeply to them. Perhaps we need to slow down and give ourselves the mental space and spaciousness for contemplation and reflection to research the person within us as academics. Liberating ourselves from the academic regime to excel might allow us to live our lives with joy, care, and passion. Today, we call on a fellow academic activist, Maria Munar, a beautiful person in mind, body, and soul. She is one of the most well-read, brilliant, and creative academic that we have in tourism today. Maria is an associate professor at Copenhagen Business School, Denmark. A love of knowing and love of family, friends, and colleagues has guided much of Anna's scholarly work. Her research applies philosophical approaches to gender, higher education, and tourism. Her ongoing work in tourism focuses on gender and tourism sustainability and on reimagining tourism spaces, applying ethics and contemplation, new materialism, and creative writing. Her latest book, I Am Men, is a poetic, philosophical work on gender identity and expression. Over the years, Anna has served on several national and international boards and networks. So let's get started with Anna Maria. Hello, Anna. It's so lovely to have you here on our podcast. We have been waiting to have you here and we've been counting down the days. You know, Anna, to me, especially, it's such a pleasure having you here because you are one of those women that I say, you know, that I've been acquainted with who is not just physically beautiful, but I've always seen you to be beautiful with a beautiful mind. You know, and you've always been a source of inspiration to so many women that I personally know, including men as well, right? So today we would like to have you here on our podcast to listen to some of the perspectives, both professionally as well as personally. So I'm going to give it up to Catheryn right now because she has one burning question to begin this podcast. Over to you, Catheryn.
Anna, my dear friend, I am so happy to have you here, especially that I've not seen you for the last 2 years because of the pandemic. I don't know if you can see, like if you're here online, you can see that I've got tears coming out of my eyes because of how much this reunion means to me and how much it means for me to have you on this podcast. Because I know you so well, but the audience don't, I want them to see the personal side of you and see this beautiful mind that Nisha is talking about. So I want to start diving into your book of poetry that I've seen you begin and end. I Am Man is a beautiful book, but in one of those writings, you talked about this woman who was and you seem very cynical about this woman who said to you, I do not see gender. You don't seem to like this statement. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so actually this is the experience that prompted me to write the book. Which is this kind of, so the book is a combination of philosophical reflections and some poetry about the idea of man, the word man. But what happened was that in a very short period of time, I had 4 different experiences of 4 different people telling me I don't see gender. You know, when I talk to somebody, what I see is a human being, and I make no difference whatsoever. I have no prejudice whatsoever. I act from a sense of complete justice and rationality when meeting another human being, right? And in these occasions, so these were different occasions, and 3 times were women. And the one that I depict, and one was a man, and they were all in academia. And at the same time, I was experiencing hardcore all around me, all kinds of cases that had to do with gender experiences in academia, including also sexistic experiences. And I was very active in diversity politics. And I also had a lot of people to come and see me as part of my diversity activists talking about these experiences. So I was having this kind of cognitive dissociation, and it made me wonder. So what happened to me was that specifically this person was a person that I liked. So let's say that these 4 experiences, the other ones were like, okay, you know, this person, I didn't think I had to enter into personal relationship with the others. But this, I was in an office, it was another academic, it was a woman academic, and I really liked her, you know, and I thought, oh, you know, I also like very much her way of writing. And I was there thinking, you know, there's so many things that could connect us. And it was one of the first meetings when I was trying to make that connection, and I didn't know where would that go. But then when she said that sentence, it really made me pause, because I thought, even you are saying this. You know,
so what is wrong? What is wrong with this sentence?
Yeah.
Anna?
What is wrong is that it is a myth that we need to believe in order not to feel guilty. And it's a mythical belief, which is very useful. And it serves to hide injustice and not to be able to take responsibility for injustice. So it's a dangerous myth. And it's the myth that we meet reality as a blank slate. We as human beings, when we are adults, we meet others and we meet the perception of our social reality around us from a position of neutrality. And this position of neutrality is a sense of perfect equidistance, or a kind of objectivist position. And it's a fallacy. But the problem of this fallacy is that, let's imagine that we had a fallacy, or a fake belief, a false belief, that was helping us to be better people. Then I will be okay with that, right? I will say, okay, this is a useful false belief, because in a way, it is, maybe it's a delusion, but it's helping us to be better with each other. It's a little bit like when we look at our past and only remember the good experiences, you know? Mm-hmm. I would say, okay, that was also a little bit deluded, but maybe that helps us live, because we are not all the time hanging on the bad experiences. But actually, this belief is extremely damaging, because when you believe that you are objective and you are always neutral, you don't need to change. There is no need for social change, because you are already just in your judgment of the situation of the other. So it's first when you become acquainted with the workings of social prejudice and stereotyping, and how does that taint our way of looking at ourselves and the others and experience the reality around us, that we can become aware that that is a reality, and then we can start doing something about it. So for me, it was that if awareness is not, awareness is the first step. It's not even what needs to be done. It's much more than needs to be done. But if we don't even have the awareness of it, then where are we? Right? And we are, so at the same time, I'm in a country that praise itself for having so much gender equality. The Scandinavian countries are known worldwide for their gender equality legislation, for having women's rights, etc. But the reality of the daily life and the reality in academia is that we're far from having this equality.
I must say, I was really surprised, and when I see you do so much work on gender and sexual harassment and gender harassment in the place where you are doing it from, because really, to the world, you don't have a problem, or you have the least gender-based problem. So yeah, it's amazing to see all this work that you're producing, that even that the last campaign you did.
Yes, and the last campaign, and part of it was also that because this has been a country that had a big 68 revolution, and in the 70s they had a strong feminist movement, and many of the older generation have feminist beliefs, there was this opinion that we are already there. Right. But at the same time, we could see all the stories and experiences, and the culture wasn't there. But there was a kind of denial of the distance between what we are experiencing and then this kind of national understanding of who are we. Yeah. And it was difficult to raise the conversation because they were like, we don't need this conversation. Other countries need this conversation.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, similar to the I do not see gender statement. It's almost an arrogance of, I don't have a problem. I don't see a problem. I don't need to address a problem. I can't. Yeah.
But I guess, it's not about where you are located or pressing issues in the region that you are. But I think for Anna, it's probably something that you are very, very passionate about, And talking about that, Anna, I just want to ask this question because I was reading one of your letters that you have written, and it said something like, you said something like, follow your curiosity instead of follow your passion. Right. And you said something like, your curiosity is like a whisper that calls out to you, perhaps it's a calling or is deeply connected to your desire, and I was just thinking when I was reading that, is it about being in a state of being rather than doing, because passion makes you want to do something. So can you share this perspective of what you wrote? And also maybe what keeps Anna's curiosity burning?
This is a very important statement for me. And it's one of these aha moments, it's one of these things that has helped me a lot. And I think also in reality, it is also something about motherhood and something related to being a woman. Because for me, passion is very much, is this idea that you have to give everything to something. This is a big passion and you have a big professional passion. And then you have to forget family and loves, and then you have other hobbies and your life. And because now this passion takes over, and it's a little bit like sacrificial, like there is a sacrifice to be made, and you have to work all hours, all time, and also you have to suffer. So to me, all this goes together, and there is a kind of ideal of an academic that goes together with that, and even people play into that. They play like, look at me, I'm suffering, and how much I am working and killing myself for this passion that I have to become an academic. And I've always had a sense that this was wrong. And not only wrong, it's also gendered in a way that it attacks mostly women, because women very often are not in the position of giving themselves to this kind of passion. Okay. And therefore, because they can't do that, they cannot perform this type of academic heroism of suffering. They already think maybe it's not for me. So, and then Once I was listening to a podcast of Elizabeth Gilbert about creativity. And she was talking about creative tools and creative ideas. And one of the things she worked about or said about was this difference between passion and curiosity, and how curiosity was much more easy to enter and easy to follow, and how many more people could say, yeah, I do have a curiosity. Maybe I don't have the big passion, but definitely I feel curious about this, I feel curious about that. And that was the aha moment for me. Because for me, it's like, you can have a brilliant academic career without dying, without having to self-sacrifice into killing yourself for whatever institution you are employed in. You can have a brilliant academic career by listening to what calls you. And there is a reason why those things call you and not other things. And then this kind of giving yourself the right and the entitlement to follow that curiosity. It's a much more easy thing, because you can also change curiosity, right? You can say, okay, I'm curious about this week, and next week I'm curious about something else.
I think I know what you mean with that podcast by Elizabeth Gilbert. I think she also refers to this curiosity. She said to someone to have an affair with your curiosity. She likened curiosity to be an affair, and then she talked about passion being, like you say, like it's full on and it's hard, but curiosity is lightness, like it should be light. And I always feel the same with academia. Like, why should we have this conversation on academic work being hard and difficult? Just like travel started out like that. Travel came from the word travail, which is hard and difficult. Exploring is about men doing it and not women. When you talk about passion, you also worked a lot and read so much about desire, Anna. So, but then, like desire, and then you talk about sexual harassment. How do you hold these two together? How do you reconcile these both? They seem to be on opposite ends.
Oh, I'm so happy about this question. And it's such a complicated question. Okay, so I've written a whole book about desire, and desire has been a passion of mine for years now.
I think you read many books on desire, not a whole book.
Many. And actually I read so much because I couldn't find the book I wanted. So I ended up writing the book I couldn't find. So I was so desperate and in a way, what I've always understood was that to me, desire had a part of it that had to do with eroticism or with sexuality. That is the part that most people talk about when they talk about desire. But I've always known that desire to me is the wish to be alive. So desire for me is what makes you wake up in the morning. So it's Monday morning and you have to wake up. And why don't you stay in bed and then die? Why not? I mean, it's an option. So, and I've always known that what makes you stand up is desire, is the wanting. Now, the wanting can have many different types of nature. And also I think that there is desire for knowledge, there is desire for friendship, for love, there is desire for wanting to experience things, but desire can be killed. And actually I also think we have institutions and systems that kill desire systematically, that make people depressed, not because people is depressed naturally, is they make them depressed. And depression is the loss of desire, right? It is the loss of desire in the sense of the wanting to live. The energy, the life energy is not there. So when I think about sexism, I see it in this way. Sexism to me is the degradation of the other human being based on their gender. So is to look at another human being and just based on their gender categories. And that gender can encompass, in this case, also the sexuality of a person, or the sexual organs, or the gender identification. So based on that group of categories, you degrade them. And then this degradation can be hostile, or it can be paternalistic, treating them as children, or simply with animosity. And this has been the fight of my life, to fight this form of injustice. Now, desire plays an element, because when we think about, there can be desire for power, right? There can be desire of possession. So desire is not necessarily good. It's a life force, it's a life energy, but ethically, you can put the life force and life energy towards an ethically good aim. And to even, I would say, the relations and the processes by which you put the life energy to work, you can put it into with a sense of goodness, or you can do, there is a lot of desire and a lot of energy in power, for example, right? And a lot also on possession. And part of what happens and goes on Sexism has to do also with desire. And it has to do with forms of desire that can either possess the other or have power over the other, or annihilate the other. So
I think we're talking about
the
manifestation of that desire that actually at the end of the day matters, you know, in terms of what is the outcome, isn't it? It's the manifestation,
Yes, it's a manifestation. And I will also say is what we do with it. Because desire is going to expose itself, right? It's a little bit like saying, okay, we will have tendency to aggressivity. If we are, for example, sometimes we are experiencing something that feels like wrong, or in a meeting where we are hearing something that really is offensive to us, we're going to have a surge of aggressivity. But it's also going to be, what do we do with that aggressivity? How do we direct it? How do we use it? How do we make a space for that aggressivity to settle? How do we make, I will also say, we have to look at the anger in his face. You know, we can't, it's also important to say, I'm super angry right now. And this anger, I have rage. You know, how does my rage look like? It's fire. And right now, if somebody could see it, I'm burning inside. And I could punch somebody in the face. You know, it's also okay to see the reality of that. But then, of course, it's about what do we do with that? Do I go on using rage to abuse somebody else? Or how do I channel? Can I channel that energy into something that is normatively or ethically better?
Right.
That practice.
So then, is that how you channel is that how you've channeled through your advocacy work, through that campaign, that big campaign that you ran throughout the whole country?
Yes. So to me, there are two things. One is the collective is very important. So I think that the movement from this sense of being, I'm alone with this suffering, with this injustice, with this, to what is it that we together can do with each other, for each other. That movement, there is something about the beautiful, the beauty that appears in community. So one part that is very important is searching the community. And this community doesn't need to be formalized. Sometimes the community is not what the institution says the community is, but there is an important part that has to do, how to channel that is through community work and finding your community and creating community.
Right.
But
so many women has this problem. They think the same. They think it's not fair. They've experienced it themselves, but they don't do anything about it. You know, they are hoping for people like you to do something about it. Why do you do something about it? Why is it always people like you who do something about it?
I have a visceral reaction to injustice. I mean, to see people being treated without dignity, you know, so, and then I speak up. And then sometimes I think, why do I speak up? I should. Oh, here we go again. You know.
Yes. I just made a TikTok video to go. You know, I made a TikTok video exactly like that. I was like, I want to be this cute and mysterious girl, but then I have to open my mouth. Why do I have to open my mouth?
But Anna, interestingly, you know, Anna, I want to ask you this question because, again, there's something that struck me when I was reading some of your work, because you said this, you know, try to become a verb and not a noun. Forget about being somebody that needs to be remembered for the work that you do or whatever, or for an academic fame, but focus on the meaning of joy in whatever that you do, whether it's right or your advocacy work or your agency work. I mean, is this a really strong foundational belief behind everything that you do? Is that why? Is that why you do what you do?
Actually, it's so important. If you could see it, maybe I can show you this. Wait.
It's just in a podcast, nobody's going to see this. But let me read it out.
I can explain that, but it is, I have actually this sentence: try to become a verb and not a noun.
Right.
Always in front of me. I think, I mean, this goes beyond academia. I think that when it's a little bit like the secret to a good life, when we think about what is a good life. So it's not about to live, but it's what French philosopher Jean-Luc Nancy says is about how to live. And I think that there is a wisdom in forgetting yourself. So the moments of experience, the moments of best growth or most love or flow have to do when I forget that I'm even in the room. Absolutely. I am in what I am doing. Absolutely. I am in my walking. I am walking. I am in the conversation with a friend. And then I come back to my body. It's a little bit like, oh, by the way, the ego comes back. It's like the ego gets diluted into, when it's good writing or good reading, you are gone. And the you that is gone is this craving you. Is the you that is worried. Is the you that is like, and also I should achieve this and this and this. Is the you that compares, is the you that is always unsatisfied about, why haven't I already achieved all these other things that other people tell me I should have achieved or whatever, Yeah. So the more, and it's also the wonder. I mean, how can I express this? The world gives to you constantly, all the time, in a bit. It gives and it gives and it gives. And then if you enter and just receive. And you can receive in the reading, you can receive in the writing. So you put yourself as a receiver. And then, of course, there is a relation. You are doing that relationally. But this has nothing to do with the pursuit of a specific status or goal. It's very present oriented.
Right. It's beautiful what you're saying, Anna, because when you are in this flow, I think the meaning, the connection to the joy of whatever you do seeks you, right? And you just receive it. But I'm going to ask you this question, I mean, many of the women researchers or academic would really love what you have just said. But when we are in an institution where in higher education is all about publish or perish, and you've got to write the politically correct stuff, but don't you think this kind of leads to a disengagement or immunize many of the researchers from developing the meaning and connecting to what they write? I mean, how did you overcome this?
I think you're completely right. And I think it's toxic in many ways. And I also think it kills desire.
That's right. It kills creativity. That's what Sir Robinson says, that, right?
It kills your desire.
Yeah.
So I think you need strategies and very basic, like daily life strategies, like habits, I would say. So you need to be very conscious that some of the discourses in relation to metrics and rankings and comparison is simply toxic. So it's not okay just to say, oh, but they are there. And no, you have to really protect yourself. Like you say, okay, I protect myself against COVID because I use a mask and I clean my hands, and similar. I mean, you have to go really straightforward and say, how do I protect myself from something that is toxic? And in order to do that, you have to create, I would say, my tip will be, create spaces, even I would say also physically, spaces of where there is beauty for you to enter, where there is a space of silence, contemplation is possible. Writing in this kind of gratitude contemplation is allowed and also encouraged. And this can start in the small. You can just say, okay, this is my reading corner. And in this reading corner, I bring my beautiful authors, and I bring the conversations I'm having with people that inspires me. And I enter in a flow of reading that is giving and is with gratitude. And it has nothing to do to be productive and useful and because I need the latest reference to put in the second paragraph or whatever. And I will say the same with the practice of thinking, or the practice of, maybe I say, okay, so I take this, I make a practice, and sometimes a week I do a walk, and this walk is my thinking walk, and I protect it. So we need to protect habits, which used to be part of what to be an academic was. So if we look back to the history of university, there was a protection of the time for reading, for the in-depth thinking, of the type for prayer. You know, we need prayer. And prayer, to me, is the time of contemplation, is the time for deep thinking. And prayer, in the old days, it could be something like, okay, we have a specific type of God that we pray, or specific, but in a way today, prayer is open to the universe and let the universe talk to you and talk to the universe back, and create those spaces of prayer, contemplation, deep thinking and reflection, and then the doing. Today we have the doing everything.
Absolutely.
You know, we fill our calendars.
Yeah, and the being doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
I hear a lot of people say, a lot of academics say things like, you know, I enjoy my work. I do it because I enjoy it. And it's this enjoyment that is making me produce all these publications, exactly. But to enjoy is very different from the acceptance of joy. You know, like I see enjoyment as very shallow, whereas the joy that you're talking about, like you talk about joy seeks you, but a lot of people, when joy seeks them, they cannot accept because of these practical demands of our institutional work that we have to fulfill. So you are talking about creating this space, physical, mental, emotional, of welcoming this joy when joy comes seeking. You have to have this courage to wander off, and this wandering off is liberating. That wandering off to read, to seek, to be immersed, that's liberating. But I think a lot of us in academia are not yet liberated.
Yeah.
No, and there is also, so I think there is a form of, there are different forms of numbing, and some are socially accepted and some are not, right? So you could say, okay, so heroin, not socially accepted, but busyness, socially accepted, but it's numbing anyway. So it's just a way of not feeling, because I'm not there. I mean, if I'm completely busy and over the top and stressed like hell, I go to bed and that day was gone and I wasn't there.
Yes, and productivity.
I was there, but I wasn't, not really. You know, I wasn't there. I was just,
and productivity, being productive is also numbing, socially accepted.
Exactly. Productivity is a numbing, and these are socially, but in a way, the challenge of this is that they are socially accepted, and we are social beings. So there is a lot of, if there is a kind of praise of busyness, people will actually create more busyness than necessary. In order to feel this, okay, but it's because I'm super busy and I'm super important and I'm super
to feel relevant.
We are all into that. You know,
but Anna, but these are the people, the ones who are busy, the ones who are productive, the ones who are producing. They are the ones who are getting promoted. You know, I know you for a long time, and you are still an associate professor. Do you think that these values of you know, refusing the toxicity of the neoliberalization of universities, is that why you are not yet a professor? For the sake of all academics.
She was so immediate in her answer. She doesn't even have to think.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And even I don't.
And does that bother you?
So this is so interesting, right? Because now they even told me, okay, Anna, you should make this, you know, you should try this of the profession and make a whole claim and argue why this institution needs you. And then in October, I said, okay, I'm going to put 1 week to do this, to write this. Then I said to write, and I couldn't write it. I was completely blocked. And I thought, why am I so blocked? And the first day I tried, the second day I tried, the third day. And then on Friday, I just wrote to my group research leader and I said, this is not happening. And I said, we need to talk. And then I just had a phone call. And then I told him, I don't believe, my writing is like I'm forcing something that I don't believe in, because I have to promise. So very much this is about what is in it for me, the institution says, right? The institution is like, tell me how much you're going to fight for getting all this money and making these big cathedrals of research centers, which are enormous. And then tell me how this is going to save humanity. And it's a lie. It's a lie, all of it. I mean, the most beautiful research I ever read, and the most beautiful, is not made by people that do this, and yeah, including, I don't know, here I have 2 books that are amazing, for example, Jean-Luc Nancy, right? And Doing or Simone de Beauvoir, that I've been reading, a beautiful book, I mean, that she wrote. And I'm just thinking, well, these people didn't do these things. It is a machinery. So, and it's very difficult, I have to say, because it makes me cry. When I was doing that decision, I was turned apart because I want to please and I want to be admired. And I want for people to say, oh, look, she got all these prizes and she became a professor and so famous, and but then in reality, I don't want it. When I look in my heart, I want the contemplation, and I want the reading, and I want the writing, and I want the thinking, and I want meaningful relationships. And I want my students, and I want to have less, but deeper. And I have to be true to that. And when I'm true to that, it doesn't go aligned with promotion patterns.
All right.
And then I have to make a leap of faith to say, well, it will be what it will be, because it will have a level of integrity. And
yes.
So it's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy.
Yes, and you, without following the popular path, is choosing what you came into this field for at the very beginning. You're staying true to the inspiration from the very beginning, which is education and intellectual stimulation, whereas so many has moved from that into manufacturing.
Yeah, and I think that so I will say that there are some personality types for whom ranking and a specific type of signs, for example, medals or something like that, a little bit like the Olympics, right? It's a bit people that train every day in order to get, this kind of extraordinary, and it's admirable, but it's not for everybody. And what I always fight in academia is for diversity. What I say is like, look, there are some types of scholars that for them, what works is this, to say, I want to have the article that will be the most cited, blah, 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 blah. And this is the aim. And they are able to do quite good things with that. The problem is that if this is the only way you can be an academic, that's killing thinking, and that's killing the plurality of thinking. And so the fight is for more types of academic to thrive, not only to survive, but to thrive. To say, well, we can have academics that are slow thinkers, and they come out with an amazing book every 3 years. Why not? I mean, what's the problem with that? Yeah. And the problem right now to me is that it is about this kind of mono type of academic.
Yeah. Have you seen one of the latest news about this professor, not a professor actually, a university lecturer who won a Nobel Prize for his book, and then he was called into the dean's office the day after he received the prize, or a few days after he received the prize, and being reprimanded for not achieving enough, like for just writing one book, but that book has won the Nobel Prize and it's not enough. So he was put under academic counseling or something.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think we have some systems in academia at the moment that are simply toxic. And I think we have to fight them. I mean, I think part of the activism, besides the part of sexism, which is very important to me, is also the part of plurality and also the part of going back to the basic of what university is supposed to be like, which is a space for deep thinking and critical thinking. And it's under threat.
They've taken away sabbatical time too now.
Yes.
Many universities have taken away sabbatical time.
Yes. So, yeah, we need, and in a way, I think that this part is not ending. I mean, we need to, and the most difficult part is to stay in academia when you want to leave, because every 4 or 5 years, besides the part that I also think that I don't want to promote that I couldn't care less, which is honest, because it's honest, because also the people I admire are not professors. There are many professors that I don't admire at all, you know, so I have this kind of complicated identity. But the part is also that every 4 or 5 years, I say, what am I doing here? You know, what is this? I mean, what is this place? What am I doing here? I'm wasting my life in this place. Right. And at the same time, I have this conflicting that, okay, if we all leave, you know, if the ones that are not like this conforming, we are abandoning the space of university. What is then left? Right. So it is, but I think it's not easy. And I wish it was easier, I have to say. And I'm not sure. That's also why I also have trouble to say to people, you have to stay in academia. You know, sometimes I think, maybe not. Maybe you will be much happier and do much better for the world.
I think it's lovely that you were so truthful and honest about what you just said, you know, but regardless, times that we go through this self-identity crisis, you know, am I wasting my time? Am I in the right profession? Am I doing the right thing by sacrificing and fighting for all these social causes? But regardless of what you're feeling, Anna, I just want to say to you that you are a major source of inspiration, whether you know it or not, to many, many, many of us. When you speak the truth and for being the lovely person that you are, you know, but just your presence in tourism academia in itself is a major inspiration to many of us. So you are in the right space and in the right place. So I'm going to ask you one question.
But also it's important, I have to interject, Nisha, that it's also important that what she just said here is not a pressure point for you to stay in academia. If one day you decide to leave, then then
it's true. And also another thing I think is so, and also that we live so long, because I also think something about life is so long, right? And people died much younger in the old times. and I also think this about, you know, becoming 50. I'm thinking, you know, Esther Perel, this psychologist, she says that you can have, maybe you will have 3 marriages, and sometimes you will have the 3 marriages with the same person. You know, she has this famous sentence. It has become a kind of famous sentence. But I think the same with professions. You know, I think maybe you will have 3 professions. Maybe the same profession will change, and it will become 3 professions in one. And also, I like sometimes. Why do we think that academia has to move like horizontally? Like, the academic career is to go from this to this to this. Why not in another way? Like say, well, I want to be a different type of academic this time, but it's not about changing my title. It's because now I will put effort on working with communities and doing something completely different. Now I will put all my effort in pedagogics, and I will not write so much, or maybe I will write all the time, you know?
Yes. And also you can be an academic outside of academia too.
Yeah, the fluidity between what is academia and what is not academia, and how can you do, I mean, you can bridge, but it's not even bridging, right? It's not the idea that you bridge one world with the other world. There is one world, that's it. This is not, it's also these divisions between worlds.
Yeah, it's evolution.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, Anna, I think many people who are listening into this are going to have many aha moments, listening to what you're just saying, and maybe we don't know whose light bulb you're going to be lighting when you're saying what you're saying at the moment. But I want to know something, Anna. Do you have one special woman or a few special women who have inspired you and created this light bulb moments in you, or made some change in you?
I have so many.
So many. Maybe a few.
Yeah, no, I have. So I'm going to name a few. So one that was extremely important for me, was Margaret Atwood. Okay. So Margaret Atwood is a novelist, a very famous author from Canada, and I found her book at in a bookstore in an airport, because I panic if I'm in an airport and they have not a book to read for the travel. I just panic. And at that time I don't remember which trip I was taking. It was a work trip, but I was like, oh my God, I forgot the book at home. So I immediately had to go and find. And they had this offer. And I didn't know about her. And it was a discovery for me, her literature, her power, but especially, she was able to tell the truth or to write about things that I thought, my God, this is so courageous. How does she dare to talk about these things? I would not even dare to talk about it to myself. She deals with some issues that are really taboo, but she does it in a way, sometimes it's sharp like a razor. And it's not my voice at all. It's interesting that I don't think the voice that I have as an author is similar to her. But to me, it was courage. It was courage at a level. And then the other thing, then I became really, then I was like, okay, I can't get enough of her, right? I can't get enough of her writing, because it was a lesson in courage. Is say it, and I say it as you see it. Don't go around the bush. Don't apologize. Don't. It's the entitlement to say it. So she was extremely important to me.
Anna, what's the last name? How do you spell that?
Atwood, Margaret Atwood.
Oh.
And actually, she's the one that wrote The Handmaid's Tale, who has become this very Netflix series. But I read, so she was for many years, she wasn't. Now she has become popular, more popular, because she's the author of the book, of this kind of science fiction book that then became the series, the TV series. She's been a major source of inspiration for me. Then I also think that Elizabeth Gilbert, and I want to mention her because many people see her as, oh, she's fluffy and she's too much into Instagramming, and
I love her.
She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, she's been my joy. She's inspired me a lot.
She's so inspiring, and at so many levels, and also because she has this level of honesty and vulnerability. She has a lot of vulnerability in the way she explains her own journey.
Yes.
And I think many of these famous authors, they actually put a mask, of course, also as a form of protection. But I will say also that her whole discussions on creativity had been so inspiring for me.
Yes.
And her as a person, also something about her own personal life in relation to her own sexuality.
Yes.
So that, I love that. So, if you don't know her, she became very famous because of a book about finding herself, going through a divorce, having a personal crisis, then traveling around the world to find meaning. And then eventually she has this huge love story with another man. And then, they marry. And then what I think is interesting is like, okay, now she has become famous because she has this kind of perfect marriage, second marriage that is like, But then actually she found out that she's in love with her best friend for years and years. And
who is the woman?
Huh?
Who is a woman? Yeah, who is a woman?
Who is a woman? Yeah. And then it's a kind of another crisis of its own, right? But also it's a little bit like giving up what you were famous for. it's not only that it's a difficult, it's a new understanding of yourself, but to me is the humbleness to be exposed to life in such a way that you would not miss on love because you are too invested in your own identity.
But isn't this what you were talking about at the start, about the courage to wander off that will then become freeing and liberating?
I think it's the same values.
And the liberation can be a walk in a Monday afternoon, because I also think about this of that liberation is in the very small, and I think that is important too. Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't need to be a grand plan.
Yeah, so many nuggets here, Anna, like from the beginning until now, there's so many nuggets, and I've just been jotting points down, so many points down. But what is, if the audience get nothing else and only one thing, what would you like that one thing to be?
Follow your desire, learn, pray to understand what you desire and follow it, because we need it. We need that subjectivity that is uniquely you. And that is what is not with other people, not, no, but listen to yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely precious. Absolutely precious. It's such a gem what you have just said to end our podcast. And we don't want to. I think Catheryn and I don't want to end this conversation, and I don't think our listeners want it as well, but we have to come to an end of today's podcast, Anna. So with my whole heart today, I want to thank you for being on this podcast. And I think this podcast was our desire. And we followed that desire of ours, and we have brought in amazing, beautiful women like yourself to be with us and to be with our listeners across the world. And like I said, we really don't know whose bulb we are lighting, whose heart we are setting on fire. But we want to thank you for gracing us today and taking your time to be with the two of us. So thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for this time.
And that was Anna Maria, an awesome human being who generously shared the need for us to courageously wander and follow our heart's desires. I loved her mantra on being a verb and not a noun in everything she does. I'm so sure this would have resonated with many of us as industry professionals or academics. That's it for today's episode, and we will be meeting real soon with another exciting and inspiring guest. If you enjoyed today's episode or would like to share your views, please connect with us on womenwewatchtourism@gmail.com. Inspire more women around you by sharing the links to our podcasts. You can find us on LinkedIn, Insta, as well as subscribe to us on all major podcast platforms. Till we meet again, we are your hosts, Nisha and Catheryn, saying goodbye for now. Let's keep conversations going and inspiring more women around us. Goodbye.